Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Paperbacks from Hell and Vintage Smut. It's my weekly wrap-up. So I've just come back from a few days away with my family, staying on a farm in the rural English countryside, which was absolutely lovely. We had very good weather for most of it, not every day. We had one terrible day, but most of it was very nice. I'll put some pictures up. But yeah, we had a really lovely time, just relaxing in the countryside. Got a lot of reading done, albeit not as much as last week. When, if you remember, I'd read 12 books. I've only read 5 books this week. But yeah, got some good reading done, did some lovely country walks, relaxed, and took in the splendour of the English countryside. Very, very pleasant indeed, and had a fantastic meal out as well. So I feel very refreshed after that, but also slightly rusty because I haven't done any filming at all since last weekend, when I filmed everything and got it queued up for the week, including getting the timing wrong on one video, so it went up at midnight rather than at 5 p.m. So apologies for anyone who got caught out by that. So normal format today. I'll talk to you about what I've been reading, what I'm planning to read, and let you know what videos have been on the channel in the last week and what's coming up in the week ahead. So it's been week 2 of GarbAugust, which if you're following GarbAugust, my reading event where we celebrate reading trashy books, you'll know is all about either Paperbacks from Hell or Vintage Smut or a mixture of the two. I've gone for both, so 5 books this week covering both of those things, and it's been a really fun reading week. So let's do the Paperbacks from Hell first. So I read The Bog by Michael Talbot. Now, I'm not sure if this is in the Paperbacks from Hell book by Grady Hendrix. Shockingly, I don't have a copy of Paperbacks from Hell. I need to sort that out. I imagine this may well be in it. I did find a list of books that were in it on Goodreads, but this didn't seem to be on that list. But I'd kind of be surprised if it's not in it, because it feels like it definitely deserves to be. So it's got a fantastic step back cover. This edition was very kindly sent to me by booktuber Duncan McCurdy a little while ago, so thanks again for that, Duncan. So I had a really good time with this. So it's a mid-80s, I think. When did it come out? Yeah, 86. So a mid-80s horror novel set in rural England, funnily enough, so appropriately enough for my holiday, about an American, I don't know if he's like an archaeologist basically, who's researching a bog and some bodies that have been found in that bog. There is a monster, that of a kind of local legend that haunts the bog as well. So it's about him discovering what that monster is, interacting with this local kind of landowner, who was quite entertaining. So this was a really good, enjoyable 80s horror novel. Some really good characters. So I thought the central character and his wife were both really well done. This kind of aristocratic character was quite interesting as well. The monster was really interesting too. So I thought the monster was really well done. It lost it a bit for me towards the end. But it was a fun ride up until there, quite atmospheric, some not a huge amount of kind of gore or violence, but when it does happen, it's done quite effectively. So I think I'm going to do a double header review of this and the other Paperback from Hell that I read this week. So that one was The Devil's Laughter by William W. Johnstone. So Johnstone is was a writer of like westerns and all different sorts of kind of pulpy, trashy books. But wrote a number of horror novels as well. This is the second one I've read by him. The first, I think, was just called Bats and was about giant vampire, super intelligent, rabid killer bats. That one was more fun. The Devil's Laughter I didn't particularly enjoy. So this is the group read for GarbAugust. So we're reading this book because it's one of the books that Pax from the channel Pax Panic read last year. So sadly Pax is no longer with us. So to honour her memory, we decided to read one of the books she read last year for the GarbAugust group read. So I think Pax enjoyed The Devil's Laughter a bit more than I did. She said it in her Goodreads review. She compared it to the movie The Room. So she said it was entertaining in the same way that The Room is, and I could kind of see that. but yeah, it didn't quite work for me. So it's about this guy who is a typical, from what I can tell, a typical William W. Johnstone hero, in that he's a like grumpy, like gun nut basically, who writes books. So he's supposed to be an author. So I think there's a bit of Johnstone kind of basing him on his own idealised version of himself. He's also like a rabid conservative and spends a lot of the book just complaining about liberals and lawyers and things like that. But basically, he's investigating this series of deaths in the town he lives in that are linked to a satanic cult. So it was fun for that reason, but it's like super cheesy, and the politics kind of overwhelms the story a bit at times. But ticks off the book about Satanists square on the GarbAugust card. The bog obviously ticks off the step back cover square on the GarbAugust card. So I've got a few more of those ticked off this week. So yeah, it was and I don't know if it was fun because it annoyed me too much to be fun, but it was kind of entertaining in a way. The other thing I read, which isn't really a paperback from hell because it's a modern horror book, but definitely in the similar vein, was Snow Shark by Brian Berry, which was a lot of fun. So this is a book about only came out quite recently, I think, about a like genetically modified shark who the military are doing experiments with, that they've modified so it can travel through any form of water, including snow. And when they're transporting it in an aeroplane, there's a problem with the aeroplane, and the shark escapes and ends up terrorizing a ski resort. So it was like super silly. It was like one of those movies you get on sci-fi, like Sharknado or something like that, but really quite entertaining as well, particularly because there's a central family in it who were really well done. It's set in the 80s, and like it's the kid of the family. It's his birthday, one of the kids, the boy of the family, and he's like super excited about getting a Nintendo Entertainment System and playing Contra and things like that. So it had a nice kind of vintage vibe to it. Had some really good kind of gore and horror scenes, and you know, this shark terrorizing a ski resort. Who wouldn't enjoy that? So that was fun. Vintage smut then. So two things read for that. So The Stud by Jackie Collins. I think this is her first book. I've only read one other book by her, which was Hollywood Wives, which I really liked. The Stud I didn't really enjoy at all. So this came out in 1969. It's set in London, based around this kind of fashionable nightclub with the charming name of Hobo, and three characters who are kind of linked to that nightclub. The main one being this guy called Tony, who's like the kind of manager of the nightclub, who's a bit of a dodgy geezer basically. And it's written in the first person from the perspectives of these three characters. So there's kind of lots of sexy goings on around this nightclub and around kind of the modelling business. It's got that kind of swinging London 60s vibe, but I just didn't find myself engaging with the characters at all. It's not actually that rude or kind of sexy, so it was a bit of a letdown from that perspective as well. So all in all, I definitely didn't enjoy it nearly as much as Hollywood Wives. The other thing I read, which I enjoyed a lot more for vintage smut, was Riders by Jilly Cooper. So this is that ticks off the Jackie Collins square on the bingo card. Riders by Jilly Cooper ticks off the Jilly Cooper square. So Jilly Cooper, if you don't know her, and Riders in particular, she was hugely popular in the UK in the 80s. And I see, in fact, that Disney Plus are doing a televisation of the sequel to Riders. So I don't know if they've already got one up for Riders, but the sequel to Riders is called Rivals, and they're doing a TV series of that, so I might have to watch that. So Riders is set around the world of show jumping, so written in, I guess, probably 84, 85. It includes the Los Angeles Olympics, which I think was in 84. It's a huge book. It's like over 900 pages, and somehow managed to keep me gripped throughout those 900 pages. So it's basically about a rivalry between two British show jumpers, Jake, who's of like gypsy origin and is like poor and struggling and trying to build up a stable so he can take part in show jumping. And Rupert, who's an absolute wanker, who's like really wealthy and just awful, just a completely awful character. Everything he could possibly do, he does to make you dislike him. So it's about the rivalry between them and the impact of the events that happen in the book on their lives. And actually, it was quite well done, and it wrapped up quite nicely with both of those characters having been slightly changed by what happens in the book. There's loads of other characters as well who are all quite interesting. There's tons of sex. There's tons of like name dropping. So like when they're at the Olympics, they meet like Sebastian Coe and Daley Thompson, who you probably don't know those names if you're not English or British, but if you're a Brit of my sort of age, those are super famous athletes. So yeah, it was just really gripping, really fun, quite funny at times. It was a bit kind of distasteful at times, and definitely showed its age in terms of the kind of representation of male sexuality and things like that. But it was still a really entertaining read, and left me actually wanting to read more. So there's like 10 books, I think, in this series. Rivals being the next one. I have got one of the other ones on my Kindle, but that's like book 6 or something like that. So when I next fancy some 80s British trash, I might get Rivals out of the library and give that one a try. So that's what I have read this week. Currently reading Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews, which obviously ticks off the V.C. Andrews square on the GarbAugust card. So I have read this before a few years ago. Really enjoying the reread. It's such a weird book in terms of just the way it's written and the subject matter. So about, if you don't know, about this family who the father dies and the mother, who's now kind of impoverished, has to take her children and beg for money from her rich parents, who are like completely awful people. And in order to do that, she has to take her children to live with them. But the grandfather can't know about the children, so the children get locked in the attic, like secreted away from him because he's an invalid, so he can't kind of roam about the house. So a very, 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 very strange book, but I'm really, really enjoying it so far. It's just such a unique book. It's got a real kind of gothic vibe to it, but this kind of weird repressed sexuality like running through it as well. Just really, really interesting. So yeah, enjoying that very much. So that's so that's what I've been reading for the Paperbacks from Hell and Vintage Smut Week. And I think Flowers in the Attic ticks both of those boxes because it is in Paperbacks from Hell and it is quite smutty as well. So yes, next week then, so week 3 is books by famous people or novelisation. So I've got a couple of things for both of those. So for novelisations, I've got this, Love Over Gold by Susanna James, which is a book based on a series of adverts, the Gold Blend adverts, which are very popular in the UK. I've also got, this wasn't on my list to read, but I'm gonna fit it in because it's only 160 pages. EastEnders Book 8, Growing Wild by Hugh Miller, which was very kindly sent to me by Roy from the channel Roy Reads Anything. So thanks again for this, Roy. Looking forward to reading this. So this is a kind of backstory for one of the characters in EastEnders, which is a really, well, still is a very successful British soap opera, but was particularly big in the 80s, which is when this book came out. So looking forward to that. And then for books by famous people, I've got 2. So I've got this, which wasn't on my GarbAugust list, and I'm not sure if this is really trashy or not, but this is the Satsuma Complex by Bob Mortimer. So Bob Mortimer is a well-known British comedian, half of a double act called Reeves and Mortimer. I think this is kind of a bit of a mystery. Supposed to be very, very funny, and Bob Mortimer is a very, very funny guy. So looking forward to reading this. Actually reading this as part of my offline book club. So I'm part of a book club with some people I used to work with. So yeah, we're reading this month. And then my other book by a famous person is When She Was Bad by Kate O'Mara, the British actress who was in some of the Hammer movies and Doctor Who and Dynasty and things like that. So this is a kind of trashy book in the Jackie Collins style, which I have read before, but many, many years ago. So looking forward to diving into this again. So in terms of channel stuff then, you've had a few videos from me, including that one that I got the scheduling completely wrong on in the last week. So you had my video where I compared a couple of 70s revenge novels that I'd read. You had a review of the book The Waiter by AJ Chowdhury, where I also talk about what I see as a bit of a problem with British crime fiction at the moment. You've had a video where I talked about the kind of snobbish ranking of storytelling medium or media, which I quite enjoy doing, and a couple of people have done response videos to that. And then you had a book haul video as well. In the week ahead, I think I'm going to do another book haul. I'm going to do a digital book haul, which I've been saying I'm going to do for ages. I bought so many digital books recently, so I'm going to try and do a book haul of those. I'm going to do, I think, as I said, a kind of double-header review of The Devil's Laughter and The Bog. As kind of Paperbacks from Hell themed video. There's a few tags floating around that I might do, and I'm also going to do possibly a video about Goodreads. So Greg from the channel Another Bibliophile Reads put up a really interesting video about Goodreads, so I might do a response video to that as well. So yes, that's this week's wrap up done. Hope you are taking part in GarbAugust, and if you are, that you're having as much fun as I am. Do let me know in the comments what you've been reading, and as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.